As an instructor, you can enable Turnitin as a part of a new Canvas assignment. Turnitin is enabled on a per assignment basis in Canvas. Here at USF, Turnitin is integrated into Canvas through the Turnitin LTI tool. Creating a Turnitin assignment involves two steps. First, creating the assignment in Canvas and linking the LTI tool, and then confirming and saving the Turnitin settings. We find that the best workflow is to first create the assignment, and then manage the Turnitin settings, and then publish the assignment. Let's create a Turnitin assignment in Canvas. Let's click on the Assignments link in the left navigation menu to create our assignment. Next, I'll go ahead and click on the plus or Add Assignment button and start entering the assignment details like I would for a normal Canvas assignment. So I'm going to give this an assignment name, and put some information about the assignment. Down below in the assignment parameters, I'll go ahead and define the points. I'll leave that at 10 points here. And I'm going to scroll down, and for submission type is where things are going to change a little bit. Your submission type might default to online or on paper. We want to set this to external tool. Next, we'll go ahead and select the Find button. In the list that appears, we're going to search for Turnitin LTI. Go ahead and click on Turnitin LTI and click the Select button. This links the Turnitin functionality to the Canvas assignment. As a matter of consistency, you should probably click the Load this tool a new tab button. This makes it easier for students to interact with the Turnitin interface in Canvas. Next, let's go down to the Assign box. We're going to give this a due date. It's generally good practice to give your assignments a due date, and especially with Turnitin. The due date information is actually passed through to the actual Turnitin assignment. So with all that configured, I'm going to go ahead and select Save at the bottom right here. You'll see this tool needs to be loaded in a new browser window. That's how I get to the actual Turnitin assignment and Turnitin details. Here, at the right-hand side, I see the Edit Assignment Settings. If I click this, I'll go back to my actual Canvas assignment where I can enter in and modify details. Okay. SpeedGrader takes me to the SpeedGrader. Any Turnitin submission from your students will actually show up in the SpeedGrader view for them. So I'm going to click on Load this assignment in a new tab, in a new window. And what I see at the top here is going to be two tabs. The first one will be the Assignment Inbox tab. This is where all my Turnitin submissions from my students will show up. The next tab here is going to be the Settings tab, where I can configure my Turnitin assignment in the actual settings. So to note, if you don't see this Settings button here, what happens sometimes is the Turnitin window is a responsive window. It might shift depending on your view. So if I go about here, and I'm going to collapse my window here and shrink this a little bit, you'll see how it changes. So the settings goes from actual setting pick to a little sandwich menu here. I can still get to the settings here, but this is going to look a little different. So if you see this, I suggest you probably just expand your window out until you see that Settings tab again. So you'll notice a few things came over from the actual Canvas assignment. I see the title here. I see the point value of the max grade. The start date here, if you don't put a specific available from date in the Canvas assignment settings, this start date will be a week before the actual due date. So just be aware of that. But you can specify the start date, that is when students can start submitting to the assignment. That start date is going to be by default a week if you don't put anything, or you can specify in the available from settings, and that'll determine that start date. The due date, of course, is going to be the due date you specify. The feedback release date, this is actually the date that students can actually view comments in the grade mark. So the grade mark is a little bit different from the actual plagiarism report. But if you use grade mark, be aware of that. That's the first day students can see that feedback. But if you don't know what grade mark is or don't use it, you don't have to worry about this date. Next, I would suggest just leaving this allow submission file of any type set to yes. It's good practice to just take one more last look and see if all these dates make sense. Again, if you want to change the start date, due date, max grade, that's done in the edit settings area of the actual Canvas assignment. Next thing we want to take a look at here is optional settings. There'll be a specific and separate video on these settings and details. But for right now, let's just go over a few that will be helpful. And you can leave most of this to the default. I would suggest allow late submissions to yes. Leave all these repository options checked. I would select generate reports immediately. Resubmissions are allowed until due date, just in case your students need to resubmit the assignment. That's very helpful. I would exclude bibliographic materials, exclude quoted materials. So this material here by default is probably going to be, or by the definition, taken from somewhere else or referring to something else that's published. So you don't want Turnitin looking for plagiarism in those areas, so you can leave those to yes. Exclude small matches, leave that to no. Allow students to view originality reports, I would say yes. Standard repository is perfect here for submissions areas for storage. At this point, we're not going to use peer mark. We're not going to create a rubric here. We're not going to enable a grammar check at this time, and we're not going to save these options. However, if you want to save the options, you can select yes. So the next time you come in, you don't have to reconfigure it again. But it's always a good idea to look at these. I do for every single assignment and just make sure everything looks correct and makes sense. So once you're done, select submit here, and these settings will be saved. All right. So at this point, we'll go back to our actual assignment here, and let's click on the assignment tab. Here's our assignment. We'll go ahead and publish it, and we're ready to go. So our next video following this one, we'll take a look how students submit the work and how you actually evaluate that submission and what it looks like coming from Turnitin and integrated into Canvas.